Birds are back at it at Busch Stadium tonight with the final score of 8-1. The Cardinals lineup rocking it. Welcome to the Card Central Postgame Show. I'm Sara, Dayley alongside Brenden, Schaeffer. And another victory for the Birds. We'll take it moving into the All-Star break. But once again, a little discussion probably on the starting pitching tonight because Mikolas has not been a hot topic for the Birds. But tonight he was very stellar on the mound and definitely a force to reckon with out there against the Nationals.
Yeah, Miles looked really good tonight, and you almost figured he might have a bounce back like this after the rough outing he had at Wrigley Field, wind blowing out, the home runs were blowing out, gave up, the franchise record in home runs in a game, 8 earned runs, 6 total homers on the 4th of July. There were some fireworks, but tonight stifled that Nationals lineup over 5 2/3. Scoreless innings, gave up just a couple of hits and a walk, had 6 strikeouts. That's a nice little bonus to see from Miles Mikolas, with a little extra swing and miss in the tank tonight. So, yeah, look, he hasn't been the most consistent recently, but overall was able to get the job done tonight. And finally, Sara, the bats, I think, coming to play for the Cardinals was really good to see as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Putting up some solid numbers there tonight at the plate. And a couple of comments already chiming in saying that Miles pitching well tonight was the Cardinals' worst case scenario.
Oh,
it's like, come on. You have someone be successful, and why are you just going to, hit him while they're down, right? Give him the opportunity, give him the praise. He pitched a great game. Here we are. It's a victory for the Birds. They're now at 50 wins. So just roll with it, right, Brenden?
I think so. And look, we could talk about the decision made by the Cardinals organization regarding Saturday's starter being Eric Fetty. And that's maybe a different conversation. But for those who were disappointed by that and thought maybe they should have gone McGreevy, jettison Fetty, whether that's via whatever means that would be by at this point in the season. Well, you don't really have another option behind that. So if you're thinking Fetty should have been replaced by McGreevy, I don't really think it was reasonable to expect the Cardinals to also axe Miles Mikolas. And look, if they had done it before this start, we'd be talking about, not Miles Mikolas, 5 2/3 scoreless and a tidy Cardinals win. So I think I understand the frustration with Miles Mikolas because he hasn't been great on the year, a 4.94 ERA, even after tonight. That's not great, but he has had a number of outings where he profiles as what you want the number 5 starter to be, which is give you a chance to win the game, keep you in it. Tonight, he did even more than keep you in it. He kept the Nationals off the scoreboard. So there will be more starts like this one for Miles. There will probably be more that approach the disappointment we had from his Wrigley start last week. I think it's going to be that sort of mixed bag. The problem, as we've talked a lot about on STL Sports Central, is the notion that you've got a guy like Mikolas, a guy like Fetty, and Palante is kind of in a boat where he's a little hit and miss as well, all in the same rotation. That can be, it can be a little bit low upside, and sometimes the floor drops out on them. But this one was not one of those games, and so you do feel good about the Cardinals being able to take the series. I think coming into this homestand, 4 out of 6 should have been the hope coming into the All-Star break. They've got 2 of the first 3, and if they can win a series over Atlanta, you're talking about a nice little week before they get a well-earned break next week.
And, of course, we can discuss Libby here going tomorrow against the opener in Atlanta. But we have a couple of comments, of course. Mason Windu. Wynn looks like he's rebounding a bit lately. That's definitely good to see. It's definitely see some of the support to come back, which, again, a lot of the talent has been here the whole time. It's a matter of firing on all cylinders, right? So, and Contreras, hit by a pitch the most, 14, 15 hit by pitches this year.
Crazy.
And then barely puts one over the fence. Kind of questionable at first if it was going to totally go out, but good for him. Just tack another one on. So, it's good to see. It's good to see the bats come alive and something you want to see hitting in the All-Star break so they can have just a little bit of a rest and then come out guns a-blazing.
Yeah, I like the way that they swung the bats tonight. Of course, it was against a right-handed starter, which is, not the bugaboo. The bugaboo has been the lefties, but able to get Soroka out of the game early and get into the bullpen was the key because the Nationals have the worst statistical bullpen in Major League Baseball this year, and we didn't see enough of that bullpen last night. Mackenzie Gore pitched very well. In this game, they got Soroka out after 4. That gave him an opportunity to put up that big 6th inning, which really kind of cemented the win tonight. And just the way guys like Donovan, it was mentioned in the comments, Mason Wynn, Newt Barr had a good swing for a double. And of course, the home run by Contreras, just that crazy power to the opposite way, was really cool to see there. So you had a number of your mainstays producing, contributing, getting the job done at the plate. And, hey, you put up 8 runs, you're going to win more often than not. So the Cardinals were able to do that tonight. Good vibes about the game today. If you're just speaking strictly about today, there shouldn't be a lot to complain about.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Wheezy Jefferson, I have to laugh at this one because my son plays 11U baseball, but he said the Nats are terrible. He couldn't beat an 11U team.
Oh,
Well, yeah, I mean, they can't really put a lot of things together, but they're also going through a bit of a, as you want to say, a reset. I don't know if you want to like label it exactly that, but they are only on day 2 of a new helm after getting rid of, excuse me, some of their leadership. But Mikolas looking good. Taylor Garrison saying Nationals look bad, ? Are they really that bad? Nick Jensen. I love how we support others on the STL Central show. Bernie's been preaching DFA Mikolas. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while. Again, so the guy pitched a great game. There's no reason to like knock him down. I mean, if he's going to help the team out, he's going to help the team out where he can. So take it, right?
and look, I think, again, we can talk about DFA or release of multiple guys if you wanted to. You could say, look, Fedde and Mikolas haven't pitched well enough to be in the rotation the rest of the way. Okay, if that is the way you feel, McGreevy slots into one of those spots. Who takes the other one? Is it Steven Matz? All right, but we've seen 3 years of Steven Matz before this year not be incredibly productive, not be able to remain healthy the whole way through. So if you're putting your eggs into that basket, well, I don't think it's necessarily the best path forward. I don't think it's entirely fair to Steven Matz, who has been operating as a reliever the whole time. And there's not anybody else in AAA just yet that I would say I'm confident in the Cardinals bringing that guy up and that he's ready. Prospects like Tekoa Roby, Quinn Matthews, I think it's a little premature to just slot those guys in. So blind squirrel finding an acorn, that was the way that Weezy Jefferson wanted to put it. I'll phrase it this way. You don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And when Miles Mikolas is giving you 5 2/3 scoreless innings, you say thank you and you wait 5 more days to see what happens the next time. I think he is the spot that feels a little more stable relative to Erick Fedde. I think Fedde's outing on Saturday is going to be pretty important because there felt like all week a chance that the Cardinals might jettison him from the rotation before he got a chance to pitch in that game. That's not the decision that was made by the front office, and so we will see Fedde one more time. I think Mikolas with tonight's outing kind of reminded you that he is capable of games like this, and his spot for now should seem to be pretty sturdy. If only because I think there aren't obvious better options beyond what they could do with a McGreevy, and you're kind of circling that spot for Fedde to say, is he going to be somebody who could be on the chopping block if he doesn't turn in a good performance Saturday? That's kind of where they're at.
Yeah, I was going to say there's a couple of comments coming in about Fedde as far as trade bait. Like, will that be a decision made after the break? If Colorado has somebody open, is that an option? Well, I don't know why you'd even look at Colorado to begin with, but whatever. I mean, I guess options are options. So yeah, Brenden Lampy, I think we trade Fedde. What happened to our previous options? I mean, we didn't have too many as far as trade options go, but like there was the Helsey conversation. There was a couple of other, like now all of a sudden Fedde is it.
Well, I think people are talking about trading Fedde because he hasn't been productive and they're tired of seeing him pitch for their team. In the case of guys like Helsley, Phil Maton,
we could say we have a couple of those options.
Well, and the commenters would probably find reason to talk about a lot of those guys. But like other names that you talk about, that was more from a perspective of, are the Cardinals going to be sellers at the deadline? They're not trying to compete. But the way that they have played to this point, they're now back to 6 games above 500. I'm not saying that they profile better than those other teams in the wild card chase, but they sure are right smack dab in the middle of the mix right now. So to think that you would approach the July 31st deadline talking about trading away players that are helping you win games, like a Phil Maton, who's on an expiring deal, like a Ryan Helsley, even Steven Matz could be thrown into that conversation. It just doesn't necessarily feel like the vibe anymore. But when you talk about starting pitching, Fedde and Mikolas are on those expiring contracts. If one of those two is not performing, which right now, it's Fedde is the way that it feels, people would argue that McGreevy could give you better starts. If you can get anything for Fedde, people would advocate doing that, not necessarily as a sell move, but as a way to clear a spot for McGreevy, I think is sort of what a lot of people are looking for. And look, it was kind of posed by Derek Gould of the Post-Dispatch this afternoon when that announcement was made by Oliver Marmol that Fedde would take the ball Saturday. It's like, okay, the trade deadline is coming up. The Cardinals may not be saying the quiet part out loud, but they might be wondering internally, can they throw Fedde out there a couple more times, rebuild his value to the point that they could move him? I believe that is probably a part of what they're doing, Sarah. I do not believe it's smart. I don't think they should be doing it the way that they're doing it, because I don't think another MLB team, especially a team, like if you're trading for Fedde, you mentioned it's not Colorado that's trading for him. It's a team that conceivably thinks it still has a hope to make the playoffs, and they might be thin in the rotation due to injury or whatever the other reasons could be. and you're hoping that you can rebuild a little bit with Fetty and have a solid option as like your number 4, your number 5 in your rotation on the cheap, ostensibly. That would be the reason you would acquire Eric Fetty. But I don't think any of those teams are going to be fooled by a start or two where he's passable and say, oh, now he's good to go. They'll probably have it in the back of their minds that, well, he could still give up a touchdown like he did a couple times in a row or go 4 total outs like he did on Sunday at Wrigley. That's still in the range of outcomes. I think any team willing to trade for Fetty probably already knows today that they'd be willing to do it, and they probably would do it because they think, oh, we've identified a way that we think we can fix him, that he's had a little bit of an issue lately, but we see something in our scouting that would say, bring in Eric Fetty, and we might be able to get him for nothing because the Cardinals are kind of tired of him. But actually, I think we can get him back to his early season form where before 3 weeks ago, he had a 3.5 ERA. That would be the way you would trade for Eric Fetty. I don't think a team's going to be fooled by Eric Fetty throwing up a good game on Saturday. Like, if you're going to try to build his trade value, already be sniffing around and asking if teams want him, because I just don't know that 1 or 2 starts is going to make the difference on that front.
No, it's not going to make a blip on a blip on the radar isn't going to prove, like you said, to be a value of a lot of teams that have been keeping an eye on their options. Like, they're going to want to trade for something that's legit move and not something that's like, oh, like you said, tossed 1 or 2 good games and now let's give them an option. Like, that's not really going to be the case. We do have a lot of conversation coming in though. However, questioning Nootbaar and his health and where he's at right now is, what's the word on Newt? Is he good? Is he doing okay? I do believe, who was the first person to ask that? Joseph Pilaster, is Nootbaar hurt? Taylor Garrison, word on Newt. So a couple of questions there on what his status is and if maybe there's something underlying there that we have not completely been updated or informed about.
He came out of the game for Garrett Hampson. I would have to go back and look and see exactly when that took place. But my general assumption would be the score was like 8-1. So,
right.
You know,
I don't know the norm that would have like caused alarm, but
yeah, I mean, he was still in the game in those middle innings as the Cardinals were making their charge. We'll see if there's anything said post game, and I'll keep the eyes on social media from the reports that may be down there at the ballpark. But look, Nootbaar, I would say, regardless of anything that may or may not have happened tonight, he's not been 100% for a little while, right? He's been dealing or was dealing with that intercostal discomfort that when he has a check swing, you kind of brace yourself, hoping that he didn't aggravate it. He's had on and off issues with that, and looked good on the swing that he had tonight to have that double. And he was 1 for 3 in the game, scored a run. The OPS up to 721 for him. I've continued to maintain that he'll end up being right about where he normally is offensively. But according to Daniel here in our chat, they called it a precautionary removal due to rib cage soreness, which is basically the same thing that we are talking about with that intercostal. So we'll vet that and make sure that is accurate, but appreciate Daniel for dropping that in, crediting Derek Gould with that report. I haven't seen it yet, but I'll make sure to find it for y'all. But yeah, guys, there's a lot of guys on this Cardinals team that are going to be excited to have an all-star break next week. I think Lars Nootbaar is toward the very top of that list because I think he has been maybe circling that period on the calendar, trying to grind through, trying to avoid an IL stint, but confirmed, according to Derek Gould, that it was a precautionary move to take Nootbaar out. He is expected back in the lineup tomorrow, according to Derek's report, and that's the words of Oliver Marmol. So, again, maybe it's just kind of a minor thing in a game that was getting lopsided, didn't necessarily need to keep him in there. But, man, you're trying to get to the end of the weekend with Nootbaar not aggravating that injury, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, however many days they get off the following week, he uses that to rest up and recuperate.
Yeah, and there's a lot of key components to the All-Star break. I mean, there's a lot of strategic planning that goes into that. Just the extra time off, given almost a week or nearly a week, so to speak, that you're not just pounding it hard every day. So that's probably a good move on everybody's part. But a lot of, teams and players do definitely look forward to this time to like kind of take a break. So that's definitely good news. But looking forward to the Braves and the situation the Cardinals are in. They're now at 50 wins. I'm holding on to my 90. I know it's July, but I'm still going to hold on to it. I still think we can do it. I think we can definitely pull it off. What is your interpretation of what's going to happen when Atlanta pays a visit to the Cardinals?
It's a good question. I've got to double check. As of earlier today, they are like a lot of teams nowadays, and they do not announce their starters ahead of time. They keep it very close to the vest. They're in the middle of a game right now against the Athletics. And so I imagine more to come on
Holmes.
what Atlanta's
Holmes is
rotation.
starting tomorrow.
Okay, so they did update that with Holmes for Friday, still TBD for Saturday,
Yeah.
and TBD for Sunday. But the Cardinals, outside of that Fetty game, which the comment did make me laugh, where Mason Windu said, "Yeah, Newt's just fine. Let's hear about more Fetty stuff," as the mob has their pitchforks sharpened for Eric Fetty. Look, I would love to see nothing more than Eric Fetty shove on Saturday and pitch a really good game. Do I think he should be starting for the Cardinals in that game? I do not believe that he should be doing that, but that's the decision that was made from up top. They're not going to make a roster move to call McGreevy in for that spot. And so manager Oliver Marmol is going to write Eric Fetty's name into that starting lineup that day, because that's who's on his roster. And we shall see. Whatever the motivations are, if it's trade value, if it's, trying to keep him for the long haul, whatever the Cardinals may be cooking up here, Fetty's going to pitch, and it's going to be very interesting to see. The Braves are a team that has not performed to expectations this year, but we know they've got talent on that roster. So it's not just going to be an easy lineup for Fetty to roll through, but can you get a little bit of Busch Stadium magic like Miles Mikolas did tonight? We shall see. Regardless, I'm not going to feel great about that pitching matchup. Feel pretty good, though, about tomorrow night with Matthew Liberatore going. Holmes for Atlanta does have a 3.44 ERA, so he has good numbers, and it does Grant Holmes on the season, and he's already up over 100 innings, so he's been a workhorse for them. I still like Libby's chances. And again, Holmes is a right-hander, so you thank your stars for that when it comes to the Cardinal lineup facing the opposition. Sonny goes on Sunday. Again, him pitching Tuesday means he's able to pitch Sunday. So you feel pretty good about that matchup no matter who Atlanta is throwing. Cardinals, I think, should look to take 2 of 3, Sarah, have a 4 out of 6 homestand, and go into the break feeling pretty good about things. And by goodness, rest up, get healthy. That's the main thing. But they can do it on a winning note, too.
They absolutely can. And I think that this next couple of games that they have on tap definitely gives them a chance to go deeper. These starters are going to go deeper, give the bullpen a little bit of a break. And, if they have to come in at the end and come help clean up some messes, they can. But I just mean that the nice part about some of these last couple of starts from collectively as a team is that they have been able to rest some arms. They're coming in late. They're not using like third, fourth inning at -1 or 2, but it's just been nice. It's been nice to see what the Cardinals have been putting together. And I think that's a positive outcome. I've had a couple of comments here saying, I love the 90 game, keep the spirit alive, Sarah. Well, even when we were flat out just garbage at the beginning of the year, I'm still going to have that hope. I mean, you always want the best for the organization, and I'm going to be one of those folks that is always going to cheer them on. So I'm hoping for the best. And I still think I've always said it. They have a lot of talent. It's just a matter of putting it all together and making it happen and keeping people healthy and keeping people on track. And I think that, it's going to be good. I think this is definitely going to keep growing in the right direction. And starting pitching, if we can make one little change, maybe that will be the best decision that they can do this season. And we'll be off to even a better second half. But, I like the support. I like the fact that people are getting behind the Cardinals, because at the beginning of the year, it was not positive. And it was pretty upsetting to see Cardinal Nation so upset, because they want a good product, and that's what they deserve.
And I would say as recently as yesterday, it wasn't positive, but that's okay. We know that after
for the most part, it wasn't like 4 weeks of doom and gloom as bad as the season started out. But
yeah, after a loss, you're certainly going to see different comments compared to a win. And again, like we said tonight, not a lot of negatives or concerns to really be thrown out there. And anytime you can win a series, that's what you want to accomplish. And so even against maybe a lesser opponent at home, like, you're supposed to be taking care of those moments. You only get to play who's on your schedule, and the Cardinals played the Nationals this week. They took care of business, and now you got one more series against the Braves. You can kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel before a valuable all-star break, and just find a way to get 2 or 3. I mean, if that's as simple as Libby and Sonny going out and doing their thing, 6-7 innings, and maybe the Fetty game doesn't go your way, but if you could still get 2 or 3, I think you would take that going into the break. You'd be 7 above 500. And really on a pace to maybe be a little bit closer to Sarah's 90 prediction than people might have expected at this point.
We still have to find a bet, because we haven't placed a bet yet on it. So, or something, if I come close.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with it. So the All-Star break does mark the halfway season point for baseball. And that means that it's time to step up to the plate with DraftKings because, of course, think DraftKings Pick 6 is your fastball right down the middle. It's the easiest way to play for cash and take a shot at the big win. So cash in your baseball knowledge. New players get $50 in Pick 6 credits instantly on just a $5 entry. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app and use code STL Sports. That's code STL Sports for new customers to play $5, get 50 in Pick 6 credits.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. One per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 credits that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Couple of comments here on Herrera, though, but if you are just joining us, the Cardinals once again over the Nationals tonight by a final score of 8-1. The Birds' bats come alive. Mikolas had a great performance out for the Birds, taking a victory, and just now looking to take on the Braves tomorrow. First pitch is 7:15. Libby at the mound with Holmes, the right-handed pitcher, going for the Braves, and we'll see how that pans out. But yeah, just the Cardinals rolling along, just trying to kick these last couple of games before the All-Star break, and we'll take whatever we can get at this point.
Yeah, a little bit to the comments here. Taylor's saying, B-Shape, thoughts on Herrera possibly in the outfield soon. Yeah, something interesting coming from the reports at Busch Stadium this afternoon. Ivan Herrera getting going with a rehab assignment. I believe that was due to begin tonight in Memphis. I have not checked up see how that may be going. The Redbirds are up 8-1 as we talk here. So good night offensively, but they're kind of de-emphasizing the catcher role for Herrera the rest of the season. Ollie Marmol saying that's not permanent career-wise, but for right now, the main focus, and I agree with it, is to get his bat in the lineup. And unfortunately, this year, Herrera's had 2 lengthy stints on the injured list, both pertaining to that left leg. He had a bone bruise in the knee, missed really the whole month of April. And then you recently have the hamstring that he is coming off of and feeling good, back to doing baseball activities. And he was in the lineup tonight. He's currently 1 for 3 in that game. And I believe he may have been removed for a pinch hitter. So that's going to be the final line on Herrera for tonight. It's just a solid 1 for 3 as he gets things rolling there on the rehab stint. But the idea being that he also may see a little bit of time in the outfield, if not officially, shagging some fly balls. It was mentioned on the TV broadcast tonight. I'm not surprised by this one bit. I don't know that you'll necessarily see him locking in as an outfielder this season. But, guys, I've been saying pretty much all year on STL Sports Central, Ivan Herrera will never be the primary catcher for the St. Louis Cardinals. No. You didn't believe me? That's fine. But the tea leaves, are you starting to see him? I maybe had a point that I was looking to make. It's not a slight to him. It's the fact that really at this point, his bat is the most valuable asset that he carries, and they need it in the lineup. And if he's crouching behind home plate 120 times a year with a history now of leg injuries and issues with that left leg, you're not going to have his bat available to you as often as it frankly needs to be. He's the best bat in the organization, best right-handed bat for sure, in my opinion. So they got to have him in the lineup. If that means, you got to figure it out with the rest of your DH candidates, then so be it. But I think the Cardinals are to a point this year where they're ready to just kind of let it be. And I always said, I believe it was a couple of weeks ago on with Randy Carricker on the Tuesday show, where I said, I don't know when it's going to be. It might be October 1st, but there's going to be a conversation about Ivan Herrera having an outfield glove and doing some shagging of fly balls and coming into Jupiter, Florida in February, with that being maybe a significant part of what they try to add to his game. I always thought corner outfield is where he could potentially end up, and they'll try it. And if it doesn't work out, maybe he's just a DH. But my goodness, the guy can rake, so there's a value to be had with him. But yeah, he was not going to be the catcher, and maybe now people are kind of understanding that. Again, I'm not saying that to hate on him. I think his bat is too valuable to keep behind the plate, and it's not as though he was adept defensively at catcher. So yeah, they're saying it's not forever. Again, he's never going to be the primary. Maybe they'll keep it as part of his game. They might get to a point where there's just no value in doing that. It's just, if dude's going to rake, if he's going to have a 900 OPS, man, he's just going to be a hitter, and they'll put him elsewhere in the field if they have to.
Weezy Jefferson, I think, probably taking it to the extreme, but saying Herrera is going to be like Eli Marrero out there. Don't do it. I don't know if that's even really a fair comment, but
yeah, I mean, he was a catcher who kind of played some outfield, but then still could catch occasionally if you needed to. That's, I think, the comp being made. Ivan Herrera is going to have a bigger bat that he brings with him than Eli Marrero ever did. But Eli Marrero was involved in one of the the most notable trades in Cardinals history. So we're it's all good. We're all good there.
It worked out in the end, I guess, is what it all came to be
Yep.
for the Cardinals. Taylor Garrison, Burley is backup, or as the backup first base. Herrera has better speed tool than Burley. That's a comparison that's interesting. But again, back to what you said, raking at the plate and then the options that we have around the field. That's one plus with the Cardinals is that you have a lot of players that you can plug and play in certain spots, and they're good, if not really good, not maybe excelling at that spot, but you do have a lot of options, I guess is a good way to put it.
Yeah, and honestly, if you were to tell me right now that you could pencil in the opening day lineup with positions for 2026, that might be harder to do than picking a perfect bracket in March Madness, because
100%.
there are like 10, 11, 12 guys. I mean, you could even start including names like Weatherholt, who I think is going to be in play by the time we get to spring training next year. You could talk about all the machinations, and then even if you had the right 9 guys, where are they going to play defensively and who's your DH is another challenge. Here's the reality. I think before you get to spring training, a couple of these guys are going to be traded by Chaim Bloom. I could not possibly begin to tell you who it's going to be. It's going to depend on, well, who do other teams covet and what can you get for certain guys? You're not going to just trade the guys that don't have value, but you also don't want to trade your best players. So you have to kind of find that line and figure out what the roster is going to look like going into 26. Maybe I'm completely off base here, but I would be surprised if there aren't at least 1 or 2 notable trades to sort of clear the deck a little bit for what the roster is going to look like going into next season. You could potentially get a jump on that right now. I mean, it is trade deadline period. There might be some creative moves to be made, but if the Cardinals have more of a conservative deadline, I think when you get to November, December, some of those moves are made, and then, that's where Herrera fits. Because a guy that you would say, well, if Herrera is in the outfield, where's Burley going to play? Where's Walker going to play? Who's to say that all those guys are on the team? I'm not advocating trading any one over another.
Right.
I'm just pointing out that inevitably some moves are going to have to be made to sort of tidy things up.
Yeah, especially if you're going to want a different outcome than what you're seeing so far on the field this year. Once again, that's Brenden Schaeffer. I'm Sara Dayley. Final thoughts here for the 8-1 victory for the Birds over the Nationals. Once again, if you're joining us a little late and just getting some comments in, we appreciate you joining us. You can subscribe, like, and hang out with us here on STL Sports Central. But the Braves are coming down tomorrow. First pitch, 7:15. So what's your outcome and what are your final thoughts, Brenden?
Well, I like the Cardinals to win the series this weekend. I'll go out on a positive note here, believing that they probably win the Liberatore game. Cardinals can get to another right-hander, even though Grant Holmes has good numbers this season. I feel like they can get to him a little bit tomorrow. And then I expect Sonny to have maybe another brief outing, 5-6 innings, but can be effective on the final day before the All-Star break. And that's your 2 of 3 for the weekend. I think everybody's going to be locked in on what does Eric Fetty do? Because you couldn't think of a more pressure-packed game than, hey, everybody thought you should have been out of the rotation this week. Let's see what you got. That's going to be really interesting, and it could set the chart a little bit on what the rotation looks like after the All-Star break, depending on how Eric Fetty performs in that one.
I think that's the key comment, what the rotation looks like after the All-Star break. You have some time to reassess everything. You get to see what everybody's wrapping up the first half doing. And this last series is going to be key. I think a lot of performances are going to be all hands on deck, a lot of eyes on those arms, but it's not going to make or break. I don't think, like you mentioned earlier, the trade bait, so to speak, or what they're going to do, because 1 performance, 2 performances isn't really going to be anything that's going to be of substance. So once again, we appreciate you joining us here on the Card Central Postgame Show. I'm Sara Dayley. That is the amazing Brenden Schaeffer. We appreciate you being here. If you like, subscribe, hang out with us. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. is the Randy Carricker Show. Of course, there's Cards 365 and the Postgame Show once again tomorrow night. So we'll see you right back here soon. Have a good night.